Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/EntitledPeople for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Juggalo Chris. Karen. You know who I am? Me. No, tell us. Karen. My husband is... Oh yeah, that's your husband. Tell us who you are. This happened on Thursday, but I forgot to post this. So I, 27 male, was walking to the metro when I saw a guy getting harassed by this short woman. This is what I can remember them saying, translated from Dutch. Man, you've been following me since we were in the local supermarket. What's wrong with you? How rude! Do you know who I am? Me, blurting out, yeah, why don't you tell us? At that moment, I know I might have messed up. Both are now looking at me. The woman, yelling in an insulted tone, my husband is, insert name I don't remember, he's a famous accountant at, insert company name. Me, having given up on escaping, that's who your husband is. Who are you? My husband got a promotion last month because he helped. That's what your husband has done. Who are you? And what important things have you done? The man, now grinning, yeah, tell us, Wappy. The Dutch word for Karen. The woman, now red-faced, was stammering and unable to come up with something. I then asked, could it be that you've done nothing important? Let me think for a second. She then started to think and slowly turned pale. I asked the same question again. Who are you, and what important thing have you done? Without an answer, the woman left, having a pale face. I then said sorry to the man for not minding my own business, but he said that was okay and thanked me. I still wonder who she was and what she had done that made her so important. This reminds me way too much of that old video of the Karen just yelling like, do you know who my husband is? Do you? And it's like, I'm Dave's wife. I'm like, who the hell is Dave? Then just this dude walks up and he's the most Daviest Dave that you've ever seen. He's like, I'm Dave. She's like, this is Dave. Do you not know who he is? And she's like cackling and all like excited about it. Like, she just fucking brought, like, the president of the United States to back her up, and it's just some dude named Dave, and no one knows who he is. I don't even know if his name's Dave. It's just such a forgettable name. And that just gives off the same vibe as this. I don't even know if anyone knows the video that I'm talking about, but I don't know. It just reminded me of that. Reasonable Cat, 5767. My sister seems to think she's entitled to my trust fund and lied to try to get it. There's a bit of backstory to this, and I'm not sure what's relevant, but I'm sure you'll tell me if I blather on too much. Mostly, I just need to rant. My 38 female family is a little messed up. I essentially have/had 5 parents and 3 different groups of siblings. It's a bit much. And as a child, I was living in the US with my adoptive parents, and a lot of shit went down that wasn't great. So I moved back to the UK when I was 9. I had a lot of trauma and the beginnings of a rather serious drug problem, and so my US dad set up a trust fund for me before he died so that anything mental health related was paid for, and I didn't have to stress about being able to sort myself out as I got older. It's been rather handy over the last 30 years, paying for a home when I was a teenager, therapy, rehab, basically anything needed to help me not die. At some point in my teenage years, I made contact with my biological parents and their other kids, and was welcomed back into the fold. Some of my other siblings had issues with this. Fair enough. It was a big change to everyone's lives. My little sister, now early 30s, apparently found it particularly hard. And so we've never gotten along, and we've been no contact for almost a decade. This has become particularly apparent in recent weeks after she contacted the solicitors who are in control of the trust, pretending to be from a rehab facility in the US. She sent them an invoice for a 3-month stay, requesting payment to the bank account of a friend of hers in the US. The first I heard about this was a phone call from said solicitors offering their commiseration that I was due to enter the facility, wishing me luck and double-checking the details. I am livid. This is tens of thousands of pounds that she's tried to steal from me. Money that she has absolutely no right to. She never met my adoptive parents. She's not owed any money from them. She's lived a perfectly normal life with both her parents, her other siblings, holidays, university paid for, no big dramas, and she thinks she can just take from me because she wants to buy a house and thinks I should help her out because I ruined her childhood? Except she can't even just ask. She has to try and steal it. I have no idea what to do about this because if I go to the police, then it'll create even more drama in the family that I could do without. And I feel like that's exactly what she wants. Our parents will side with her and she knows it. I don't want to give her the satisfaction, but I'm just so mad that she chose this specific way to try and take what's not hers. It feels like such a low blow. Obviously, she's getting sweet FA, but what the fuck? Edit to add because a few people have asked. My father had to bail me out of a shitty situation a couple of years ago, which included getting a flight to another country to come and get me. Obviously, I insisted he accept reimbursement for his flights, despite him not needing the money. So, he would have the details of my solicitors and the fund from that time. My sister often visits my parents, so I suspect she would have seen the information in my dad's office at some point. I've certainly never mentioned the fund to any of my siblings. Update? I guess? So this got pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. I'm balancing getting things done and tied up with not losing my mind, which is always fun. Solicitors are reporting everything for me, as they are indeed required to do. Turns out I'd misunderstood and thought I had to get involved, but no, it's all on them. And I'm going to just let what happens happens. I'll be setting up a meeting at some point to go through all the transactions made over the last 20 years or so, just to make sure nothing else nefarious has gone on. Thanks everyone for the reassurance I'm not doing something wrong by wanting this sorted, but I'd appreciate a little less speculation on my life and the role my parents play in it if you could manage that. Well, I am certainly happy that the solicitors are actually getting involved in handling all the steps for you, because you definitely should have gone to the police, because what your sister did is just a fucked up form of fraud. Like, what she did was no accident in the slightest, and posing as a rehab facility as well, that was a very, very specific set of actions that she took to not only kind of fucking crush your image, but she knew just how to manipulate the solicitors to attempt to get the money that she wanted by bringing you down. That's just gross behavior, and it really shouldn't go unpunished. And I am glad the solicitors are going through and doing what they need to make sure that proper authorities are involved, but you also can't make too many assumptions of what your biological family might feel and think, especially when you're dealing with someone who is stealing tens of thousands of pounds from you. Never be afraid to stand up for yourself, because the last thing you want to do is to be a doormat and suddenly your biological sister thinks she can just continue to do this and siphon from your fund, and that's not what you need. Like, it sounds like OP got the short straw in almost everything, but they've been making do, and honestly, sounds like they've done pretty well to pull themselves back up. And sure, we all have our days where we slip and fall, but thankfully OP's father was kind enough to give them that trust fund to give them that extra little leeway just in case if things continue to keep pulling short straws. And that's all right. OP finally has something going in their favor and they can actually live a normal life, and their fucking biological sister decides, fuck it. I'm gonna create fake invoices for a rehab center and send it to your solicitors so they'll have to pay it. And then, they'll think you're back in rehab. That's just gross. Advanced 77. I feel like we've encountered this user before. We have. This is the user that was in a previous Entitled People episode. Idiot manager thinks people will be able to work whatever random shifts she puts them down for. This was the person that did not check the schedule and then got mad at their employer when they found out they had a different time set for one of the days they actually had scheduled. So, yeah, let's see how this one goes. Am I the asshole for abandoning my niece because my sister wouldn't come and get her? My 19 male sister, 26, still lives at home and likes to do things where she asks you to watch her daughter for 2 minutes while she runs to the bathroom. So she goes and then time keeps ticking away and 2 minutes turns into 15 minutes and she still isn't back. And you wonder what's taken her so long. So you go and bang on the door and then she finally comes out 20 minutes after she left. So basically, she just uses it as an excuse when she's fed up of being with her kid. I know what she's doing when she asks for this, so I always say no. But she asked me this time and I said yeah, because I wasn't doing anything anyway. But I did have to leave in 10 to 15 minutes, and I told her that. And she said she wouldn't be that long. I took her word for it and just went and amused her daughter, too, for the time being. It was getting closer to the time I had to leave at, and she still wasn't out, so I messaged her and she said she would be 1 minute. A minute passed and she still wasn't out, so I went up to the door and told her that I had to go, and I got no response. Presumably because she was wearing noise-canceling headphones. Either that or she was ignoring me, lol. I didn't have time to wait, so I went back and told my niece to go and get her mom, and I just left. And I could hear her crying and running after me as I was walking out the door. When I got back, my sister was pissed and asked what was wrong with me and why I would just abandon her while she was crying like that. And I said I had to go, and I did tell her I had to be gone by a certain time. I felt a bit bad, but at the same time, she's not my child. So apparently Advance has the infamous reputation of being a well-known troll in some Reddit communities, so if anyone has the 411 on that, please let me know, because I'm deathly curious. Now, on first glance, it might sound like that what OP did here was reasonable, but it's not, actually. This is... it's complicated. The sister is certainly more at fault than OP is here, but OP still does hold some of the blame. I'd say it's maybe an 80-20, 90-10 split, give or take. So let's start with OP's sister. For starters, they said they would be back in 2 minutes. They were not. OP did try to alert them. They were ignored. OP's sister is a parent, and that does come with responsibilities that they need to be in check for. OP did state they had to be somewhere, and that was ignored. This is why most of the blame does fall into OP's sister. However, the problem that I have with OP's actions here is he did leave a 2-year-old unattended, and 2-year-olds are pretty fucking stupid. They're gonna do stupid shit. They're gonna put forks in sockets, and they're gonna put things in their mouth that shouldn't be there, and they're gonna do some really dumb stuff. And considering how irresponsible OP's sister is, I doubt the house is childproof in the slightest. OP should have put a lot more effort into getting his sister's attention. Now, I have a pair of very nice noise-canceling headphones myself. You can still get someone's attention with those. Like, he very clearly suspected that they were wearing noise-canceling headphones. And not to mention, in their post history, they've talked about how much they love a specific pair of noise-canceling headphones. So he should be very well aware that if you can't get someone's attention with noise-canceling headphones, just knock harder. Yell louder. Get their attention. You gotta go somewhere. That's understandable. She's being an asshole by leading you on and saying 2 minutes when it's actually 10 to 15. But you should not be leaving a 2-year-old unattended. They'll do stupid shit. Last thing you want is to go coffin shopping with your sister. Seriously. Not to mention, your sister has a goddamn long as hell, according to you, track record of pulling this shit, and you didn't even think to maybe suspect the fact that she might just do this again despite the fact that you gotta go somewhere? Like, yeah, your sister is definitely an asshole. Do not get me wrong in the slightest. But at the end of the day, you still did leave a 2-year-old child unattended for who knows how long. It could have been 1 minute, could have been 30 seconds. It could have also been 5 to 10 minutes because you've stated that she can take up to 20 minutes sometimes in the bathroom. 10 minutes is a lot of time for a 2-year-old to get themselves into some pretty fucked up situations. I still firmly believe the sister is definitely the asshole in the situation, but OP does need to take some of the responsibility because they did leave a 2-year-old unattended for an undisclosed amount of time. That's my biggest problem with this. I think that they were reasonable to be upset with the fact that they were abandoned by their sister and left to watch a 2-year-old when they had other obligations, but at the same time, they did agree to the obligation of watching the child for, well, 2 minutes, but at the same time, OP's very aware that his sister does not usually keep track of time that well. I'd, of course, like to hear your opinions on this. Am I in the wrong? Am I in the right here? I want to know. Maybe I'm letting my own little autism sense of justice get the best of me here, but I'd be very curious. And if you do happen to know the history of the user Advanced77, please let me know in the comments. NY568. Entitled neighbor called police to my parents' house for my husband hunting on their land. My parents are retired and live in a little house on about 7 acres of land. It's not a big plot of land, but it's cozy and private, just outside of town. And about 6 acres are woods, with a creek running through the center of the woods. It's a really beautiful piece of ground. With the woods and creek, they get lots of animals going through, including deer. A couple years ago for Christmas, we got my parents a few trail cams so they can see what all is going through. My mom likes photography, and she's been able to get lots of photos of deer, foxes, wild turkeys, coyotes, and other wildlife going through their yard. As you may imagine, this is some prime hunting land. My husband occasionally enjoys hunting and has from time to time gone down there for deer season, but he doesn't do it frequently. My parents have had several people stop and ask them to hunt their land, and they always say no. Frankly, it's just barely big enough to legally hunt, and they don't want people all over their property all the time hunting. They have no problem anytime my husband wants to hunt, which is not often, but he's family. There is a neighbor who lives down the road who badly wants to hunt on my parents' land and has been told no repeatedly. They don't allow hunting. Last year, my husband was in the woods and found a tree stand installed that wasn't his. Unfortunately, when they checked the trail cams, the SD cards had been removed. No proof that it's the neighbor, but they suspect him. My parents travel a lot, so it would be really easy to do without their knowledge. My husband took the tree stand down, and I believe the cameras were replaced with ones that don't need SD cards. Last month, before deer season started, the neighbor again asked my parents to hunt, and they said no. They don't allow hunting except their son-in-law if he wants to hunt. My husband decided he'd try and get a deer this year for deer season. So he got a deer permit and went on the first day of deer season. He shot a decent-sized buck within 10 minutes of getting in the woods. My dad was awake and heard the gunshot blast and came out to see if my husband needed help. My husband got the deer field dressed, then my dad, who's the nicest guy you'd ever meet, got his tractor out of the garage and drove it into the woods, scooped up the deer in the bucket, and put it in the bed of my husband's truck. So, hunting ended pretty quickly into the deer season this year. About an hour later, a county sheriff's deputy and a game warden showed up to my parents' house. Said they received a complaint of unauthorized hunting and deer poaching. The officer said the neighbor, actually gave his name, called and said they had been told repeatedly there was no hunting allowed on that ground. They had seen someone go into the woods with a shotgun, heard a shot, and then someone with an orange tractor picked up the deer and put it in the bed of a black pickup truck. In our state, if you're caught poaching, they can confiscate your firearm, any hunting gear you have with you, and any vehicles used in the course of hunting and poaching. So the neighbor was really hopeful that they'd take my husband's gun, truck, and my dad's tractor. My dad said, "This is my house and my land, and the orange tractor is mine. The black truck belongs to my son-in-law, who has permission to hunt here anytime he wants." My husband produced his valid deer tags, and all was good. Also, screw that neighbor who had to be watching the woods with binoculars. There's no way he could have seen that from his yard otherwise. And just because of the sheer number of comments made and messages received that I can't answer all of them, let me clear this up. Yes, he hunts deer with a shotgun. I've never heard of a deer hunting with a rifle. Just like many people apparently never heard of deer hunting with a shotgun. In our state, deer hunting with a shotgun is required. Deer hunting with a rifle is illegal. He uses shotgun deer slugs, not buckshot. This is the norm around here. The area is too flat and open to safely hunt with a rifle when a bullet can travel too far. Shotgun deer slugs are quick and drop the deer immediately with no suffering. Does not leave pellets in the meat because it's one slug. It doesn't leave a large hole that destroys the meat. Shotgun is preferred in areas like ours with more population or smaller land areas to hunt because the slugs won't travel as far. Honestly, it sounds like the neighbor is just being a petty bitch. That's really what this just boils down to. Like, oh, I'm not allowed to hunt on the land, but he can? And fucking files a report. But being from Idaho, I'm in the camp of being used to seeing deer, well, actually wolves, hunted with firearms, because when I was growing up, my grandparents lived in northern Idaho, so there was a lot of road trips and traveling, and anytime they would see a wolf while driving, they had the permits to pretty much kill the wolf. And because wolves were kind of running rampant during the time, the Idaho Fish and Game actually encouraged the killing of wolves. At least that's what my grandparents told me. They might have been lying to me because they're also the kind of people to shoot stop signs. So, usually no telling. I hope they were doing it within like their legal rights and limits and weren't just killing wolves for fun, because that would actually kind of break my heart a little bit. But I have a lot of firm and not so fond memories of my grandparents pulling over and stopping and getting out their rifle and then, shooting the wolf across the river. It was a very common occurrence while driving up to their house for winters and summers. Perfect Blood, 3540. Entitled Disney Mom Cuts the Line, so I get her and her kids kicked off the ride. Today, I visited Disney for the first time since I was 9 years old. Super fun day. Lines longer than I remembered, but maybe I was just excited back then. My friend and I discovered the single rider lanes and took advantage of that due to the shorter wait times, and it didn't matter to us to ride separately. As we were waiting in that line, a family of 4, mom, 2 daughters, and a dad, walked through the middle of the line holding hands. Several people are disgruntled and asking what they're doing. Mom claims they forgot something on the ride. They make it to the part of the ride where single riders, fast pass riders in the original line, all are in a similar area. One of the ladies behind me screams, "What did you forget?" Everyone in the single rider lane is fuming, as we all realize she's just wanting to get on the ride with her kids. They get shuffled into the pre-ride movie area before my friend and I. We're shocked no one brought it to any of the staff's attention. Meanwhile, all the single riders are trauma bonding over this lady's boldness and entitlement. So when my friend and I get shuffled into the pre-ride movie area, I tell one of the staff what the lady and her kids looked like, and what she did. He says, at this point, since they're already in line to board the car, he can't do much. We make it to the car boarding line, and lo and behold, there's the lady and her 2 kids. I stop yet another employee and explain the situation. She says she will let someone know, but walks in the opposite direction of the rider operators. Then, one of the kids runs up to a man directly behind my friend and I, pulls on his arm and says, "Come on, Dad!" We turn around, and Dad is behind us. He refuses to join his family. Probably because he heard everyone in the line complaining about what they did. So everyone starts speaking louder, the whole line. What a terrible example to set for your children. What makes them feel so entitled? Everyone is waiting the same, some people for hours. Why do they think they're special? Why lie to get what you want? The whole line is loudly speaking, so these people know exactly what we think of them. Dad continues to hang back and let people get in front of him as he hangs his head in shame and his family inches closer to the front of the line. I had enough at that point. I talked to the people in front of me and asked if I could go let the ride operators know what happened, because I'll be damned if they're getting on this ride. I asked the people in front of me to let me warn the ride operators, and they were all happy to step aside. Mom is blocking the walkway because they're up next. I tap her on her side and say, "Excuse me," and stare her down. She slides over without a word. I then tell the ride operator, "This lady and her 2 children cut the entire line through the single rider's line claiming she forgot something. You can ask anyone in this line." She gives me the most evil, disgusted, shocked glare. I walk back to where my friend was, and another woman goes up to the line operator to verify my story. Disney Mom is trying to say both of us are lying. Then everyone in the line starts yelling and telling the same story, determined not to let her or her kids on the ride. They were eventually escorted out the side door, and everyone in line clapped. Too long didn't read, Disney Mom cuts the line with her kids and husband. I speak up to the ride operators and get her and her kids kicked off the ride, as the husband hangs his head in shame. The whole line cheers. This is one of the few circumstances where the line and everyone clapped actually makes sense, and I'm more willing to kind of let it slide. Because yeah, in a circumstance like this where someone is creating a bullshit excuse to cut hours upon hours of line waiting, I can imagine that when justice is served, yeah, people might actually clap in a scenario like this. People who do shit like this and act like they're above everyone else for some god-awful reason are honestly incredibly frustrating, because what makes you more deserving of cutting the entire line than anyone else? I mean, hell, what's stopping someone from cutting in front of you? The first line cutter. You're just devolving into anarchy at that point in time. Who gets there first? The guy with the unregistered firearm? Possibly. Secure Corner, 2096. Entitled Boyfriend Loses His Mind. I used to work at one of the Big 4 banks in Canada. One day, a short, slender young man came in and appeared extremely upset. I put on my best customer service face and asked him how I could help. He told me he needed to see his girlfriend's credit card statements. Oh great, another jealous boyfriend. I squared my shoulders, took a deep breath, and informed him that I couldn't do that. He said, "But I'm her boyfriend." Foolishly thinking rationally, I asked him how I could know that. He barked out, "Because I'm telling you." Sensing a rational conversation would be impossible, I tried to appeal to his empathy. I asked him how he would feel if his girlfriend asked to see his credit card statement. He screamed that he'd be fine with it and proceeded to have a rage-filled, profanity-laced, stomping, dancing tantrum for the next 5 minutes. He looked like a tiny, raging little goblin. Apparently, he thought this would persuade me to break the law and lose my job for him. After he stopped, he strode back to my counter and asked for his girlfriend's credit card statements again, as if the last 10 minutes had never happened. This time, I told him that it would be illegal to show him his girlfriend's credit card statements. Since all his efforts had failed, he called me a string of insulting profanities and finally left the bank, almost breaking the doors. So glad I don't work there anymore. Edit 1. I wanted to address some questions that have popped up repeatedly. For the individuals who feel like I didn't handle the situation appropriately, I work with the public for many years, and in my judgment, being rude would have led to a rapid escalation and could have resulted in me being injured. I wasn't negotiating or enabling his conduct by speaking with him after I told him no. I was trying to calm him down. Edit 2. I would have notified the girlfriend if I could. In my judgment, asking for her name could have led the young man to thinking I was going to comply with his request. My subsequent refusal could have led to an explosive escalation. Potentially, I could have been physically attacked. It has happened before. Edit 3. We don't have security. Most banks in Canada don't. I didn't call the police because this was a relatively minor event compared to other things that have happened. He didn't injure anyone or damage any property. I assume that banking laws in Canada are at least probably similar to the US, if not probably more strict and regulated. So if your name is not on the account, I don't think you're going to be able to get access to it. Personally, having been someone who's only been to a bank and have never worked for one, I think OP handled the situation just fine. Maybe if you've previously worked as a teller, you might have some constructive criticism for them, but it seems they no longer really work in that field anymore, so it might fall upon deaf ears. However, it could still be decent information for those who are tellers and working in that field. I don't know. I mean, there's gotta at least be one teller in my audience who can at least give some kind of criticism or comments on OP's behavior and either confirm they did a good job or perhaps have, as I said, some constructive criticism for them. I'll be keeping an eye out for you, bank tellers. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.